Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are Podcast. This is I Hate Being Sober, Season 1, Episode 11, What It's Like to Work at a Haunted House, featuring Nathan Blackwell. If this is your first time checking out the podcast network, please head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And with that said, on to the podcast.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to
I Hate Being Sober.
And now our host, Doug!
Hey everybody, welcome to I Hate Being Sober, a podcast where I talk to people about their life, their trials and tribulations, and just whatever we want to talk about. Today, I have a super interesting guest here. I got Mr. Nathan Blackwell. Nathan, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. Nathan had listened to the podcast we did last year on We Are Air. We went to the cutting edge haunted house in Fort Worth, Texas, one of the world's largest haunted houses. Is that correct, Nathan?
Yes, it is.
And at this point, it has won the Guinness World Record for longest haunted house in 2009 and 2015. And hopefully y'all win again. But Nathan, you have worked there for how long?
10 years.
10 years. So when he reached out to me, first thing was like, I've got to talk to him. I've got to know what it's like to work at a haunted house. So real quick, I'm going to give a little bit of history on, like I said, the cutting edge. Formed, I believe, in the 90s. It has won the Guinness World Record twice, 2009 and 2015. The haunted house itself was built in a 100-year-old abandoned meat packing plant, which actually plays into some of the exhibits, I guess, would you call them in there? What do you call stages? How do you define those?
The different rooms, zones, and stuff like that.
It was built in an area that was once known as Hell's Half Acre. The attraction in total is 2,261 linear feet from start to finish, which is almost half a mile, and it takes about 55 minutes to get through. So we want to give a big shout out to Todd James, the owner of the place. It looks like it's a party atmosphere, but that's why we're here talking to you, Nathan, right now to find out what it's actually like to work there. So real quick, Nathan, are you born and raised in DFW? Are you from Texas here?
Yes, I am. I was born and raised. I was actually born right down the road from Cutting Edge.
No shit. So in Fort Worth itself.
Yep.
Right on, dude. First of all, I need to know, have you been a lifelong fan of horror stuff, horror movies, the genre, haunted houses? Were you into that before you started working there?
As long as I can remember. Growing up, I would always want to watch scary movies and stuff like that.
So where did it first begin? What was your first thing that scared you, that really got you into the horror spirit, if you will?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ooh, the original with Freddy Krueger, yes. Yeah, I would say I was terrified by Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, all the boogeyman of the past. Like, they really got me. Hello, little one, running around the background. As you got older, how did you end up getting into this job itself?
It's kind of a sad story on how it happened. There was a gentleman that had worked there. I think he was 16 years old. I had already had a friend that had worked down there, and she'd always tell me all about it. Her name was Melissa. She would always tell me all about it. She was working down there. She worked in the hair department. And one day we had found out that he had passed away. Even to this day, I'm not sure of what had happened, but she asked me, was like, hey, do you want to come down and, volunteer, kind of show your support for the kid? We're looking for people to help out. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come down there. I'll give it a try. I haven't really been big into acting, but I went down there, and it was just best way to put it is like a downward spiral from there. I just got sucked in, and I don't regret any of it.
So you went down and was there an audition process? I was seeing online that it seems like there's a little bit of one because everyone seems to take it very seriously. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. It is a very, very serious and strenuous audition process. But for that first time, I didn't have to audition because I just went down there to volunteer. I just volunteered one night. But when I went back the next year, I did go through the audition process. And the audition process, it's you go in for your audition, and then you get a callback, and then you have to go through one more additional callback before you become a member of the cast.
And so when you audition, what is that process like? Are you in front of a group of people? Do you have to bring a character or a role? Do you have to talk? Or are you just showing what you would be like as a ghoul or zombie or whatever?
Well, when you go in, you sign up for a room. And then when you come back for your callback, you have to do a different room. That way you're not like, oh, go into the clowns and you can do another clown, because they want to make sure that you're kind of good at doing clown or like a zombie or a long time ago there was a vampire room, but that's not there anymore. Just make sure that you're good in different roles to to see where you can find your comfort zone.
So they
And
want you to work there. They just need to make sure that they place you correctly.
right, with the audition process, it's actually you're auditioning during the show. So you go into your room, and then the stage managers and the show managers will kind of keep an eye on you and give you any pointers. And you had mentioned earlier about like if you make noise or anything like that, the rule is no vocalization whatsoever.
I saw that. That was very interesting. Todd was talking about that, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, his idea was the classic horror movie, monsters don't talk, you know? The scariest ones, Jason doesn't talk, Frankenstein doesn't talk. So is that what it is? Like, that's a big thing, not to vocalize or talk at all, just to be that presence. Is that right?
That is correct. You use whatever you can to get the scare, except for your vocalization. Like you'd mentioned in the We Are Air podcast, like you got like a hand popping out in your face and stuff like that. That's kind of what we do, and we have our props that we use. Like I have a femur bone that I use, and I'll hit the wall or I'll hit a barrel.
Dude,
I'll put it up in your face.
I remember you. You scared the fuck out of me in there with that. That was awesome. Dude, that was so beast. Like, that was one of my favorite rooms to go through because it was terrifying. The loud noise and your presence. You're a pretty big guy, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Really big guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, dude, you're beast. I remember that because I remember laughing hysterically because it was so much fun. But so, no talking. The other thing I really like is the mannequin aspect of it. What is that?
Mannequin mode. Like the way they want to kind of look at it. I mean, it's not like exactly like this, but they want it to be like put two mannequins in a room and then you next to a room, and they want somebody to come in and say, I don't know which one is real. And then boom, there you are.
It works too. I didn't even put that together until, like I said, I was doing research today. It's terrifying because there's points where you're going through, and I want to say this up front. This is my favorite haunted house I've ever went to, and it is worth the money. It's worth the waiver. It's worth everything. I literally had an experience going through it, especially the end in the foam room, sweet Jesus, that was life-changing. But you guys, you put in the work, and it feels like it's a lot of fun to work there. That's the other big thing. You know, you've done it, like we said, 10 years at this point. So what was that first year like? I mean, the year after you volunteered going in, what was your first experience? What was your first room?
The very first room that I went into after I volunteered was at the very end of the haunt, right before the foam room. It was the like rundown house that you walk through, like the hallways, and you go by like a bathroom, and then there's a bed. And then the backyard, you and the other people had spoken about the backyard, the strobe light, and then like the drapes hanging down. That was the room that I worked in.
You were in that strobing the entire time. That didn't affect you at all? That, for me, just walking through it was really, really disorienting. I don't have seizures or anything, but like, what's that like to be in that room for long periods of time? Do you have to leave the room and rest your eyes or anything like that?
Yeah, we have the back hallway that we go into. We'll go in there and like 5-10 minutes, just kind of let our eyes readjust to that. But the one thing that really always helped us out was we would go down in there. They would call sets, so everyone would go to their set, and it was the last room, but we'd already be down there whenever the people in the very first room, which was the zombie room, which is one of my personal favorite ones. That's actually the one I was in charge of for the longest time. But when you go down there, the lights are still on downstairs while everyone is making their way through the rest of the haunted house. So we already have the lights on and the strobes are going. So we kind of already have the ability to get used to the strobing, and then we turn the lights off, and it just helps us adjust to it a little bit better.
And that room itself is a maze room. Like, it's really hard to get through. And we can talk about the other rooms too, but that one was, like I said, very disorienting. In reality, is that a big room, or is that just because you're so disoriented from the lighting you can't tell?
Well, I mean, there is a section that kind of veers off away from the exit, but it's really not that big of a room. But I mean, at the same time, it's kind of like a medium-sized room.
And you do help direct guests towards the exit. I noticed that when we were in there. They let us kind of play around and get lost for a while. And then just by kind of herding us towards the exit, we were able to get there. Is that a normal thing?
Yes.
How long do you let people usually run around in a room before you're like, okay, they've had their fun, it's time to move on?
It depends on how many people get in there as well. Because, I mean, when we bring them in through, they're let through in increments. That way that's not like a long train of people. So we usually try to do like 5, 6, 7 people. And so we let them play around for a little bit. And then whenever we have pressure pads and everything in there that kind of set off props and stuff like that, we can.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that through the whole haunted house? You've got pusher pads? I know eventually there is Buttercup the Dragon. I don't know if Buttercup's still there. I can't remember. I mean, I know that there are parts that was happening because I watched the video earlier. I mean, the experience was so immersive. I didn't even realize that that's happening. And that's through the whole haunted house?
Yes, like right there before you get to the strobe backyard. I don't know if you would remember, but you go into like a room that has like a washing machine and a washer and dryer. It starts doing like a bombing siren and it starts shaking a little bit. There's a pad that activates that. When we hear that, that's when we know, okay, it's time to start like kind of herding these people out so they can go through the curtain and then get attacked by Rathead.
Dude, that's so exciting. I can't even imagine like the fun of like you're saying going out in the hallway to get a breath and then just psyching yourself up and opening that door and being right back into that character and scaring the crap out of people. And that's got to be so rewarding. What's it feel like to bring fear and excitement to people as they're going through it?
It's one of the best feelings I've ever felt. It's so much fun knowing that I've left, even if it's just a tiny footprint, I've left an imprint on somebody knowing that they had a blast.
I had so much fun. When you're in character, when you're the Bone Smasher or whatever version it is with that femur, what's it feel like? Do you actually get in there and like you take on that headspace? What is that like to be in the character wherever you are?
It's like a completely different person because I'm like me. I'm a happy guy. Nothing really brings me down. I'm always having fun, joking around. Like you said, like as soon as that door opens, I'm a completely different person when I walk through there. Like I'm angry. I want to hurt you. Just a completely different person.
That is so awesome. And it's so great. You are that character. Other people in the room with you, do you communicate with them or is everyone in character at all times? There's an understanding of like, I'm doing my part, they're doing their part.
There is a lot of communication between us. Obviously, we make sure that there's no customers around. We don't want to like kind of give them a heads up of like what we're about to do because like down there in the very bottom, in that very last room, like in the front yard, there's chainsaws. And so like for me personally as a zone manager, because I was a zone manager, I'd go up and I'd check on the people running the chainsaw and be like, hey, I mean, do you need a break? Do you want to switch off to somebody else? And 90% of the time, they're so pumped up from running the chainsaw, like, no, I'm good. I want to keep it. I'm like, okay.
That's so cool. So as a zone manager, you said that you had 3 different zones. How many are in the haunted houses?
4 zones.
And those are different levels of the building itself, because I know it does go to a second floor. Is that right? And a third floor, or just a second floor, or how's that work?
Second floor and then sub-basement.
So there are 3 floors altogether with the sub-basement, correct?
Yes.
I like the experience because it just feels so big. Like even standing in line outside, I don't know what it's like right now. We'll talk about that later. But my experience last year was like the line was very much anticipation. You had the drum line come out, there's skeletons. That gets your heart pumping, which is really, really cool. And then you got a DJ out there. Games are being played. It's just a real fun party atmosphere. And the second you start walking in, everything changes. Like that heart pumping excitement. I mean, last year it began with a very claustrophobic experience when you first go in, which kind of sets the stage. What zones were you managing at that time?
I was in charge of Zone 1, which is the very beginning, which is Zombieland, which is the very first room, which is you walk in and then kind of zigzag around, and then there's the hallway it goes into, which y'all had talked about this one. It's called the closet with all the clothes hanging.
Whew, what a rush.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and stop on that one for a second because, yeah, like you said, it does zigzag back and around, and it does get a little bit closer. I mean, that's obvious because you can tell. And y'all were completely right. There is enough room in those clothes for us to hide. And that's one of my absolute favorite rooms to work. You never know where I'm at.
That's what's great is people are hiding in the clothes. Hands are coming out and touching you. The loud noise makers are popping in your face. Like, how long is that? That's like 3 hallways, isn't it? Or is it more than that?
It's 3 hallways.
You take your time getting through it. Are you claustrophobic at all?
No, I'm not. Stuff like that doesn't bother me. There's enough room in the hanging clothes. I can get from the very beginning of that room to the very end of that room in roughly about 3 seconds diving through the clothes.
Oh, nice. Okay. So it is a set path that you're putting people through. Do you ever have any people at that point bail out of the haunted house? Is that something you can do, or once you're in, you're in?
You can bail out at any time. Anytime you feel like you don't think you can continue and you want to leave, all of the zone managers and stage managers are very keen on keeping an eye on that. And we listen. We all have radio. So we're able to pass on to the next room, be like, hey, there's this person. And we're all very, very detailed. All of us can look at somebody and within 2 blinks of an eye, we can get almost an entire description of the person. Hat, hair color, glasses, no glasses, shirt, design on the shirt. Like I could look at somebody and be like, oh, he's got on an orange shirt, PlayStation hat, roughly about 6'2", bald, wears glasses, and he's got on blue shorts. I can get all that in about a second and a half to 2 seconds, and then I can pass it on to the next stage manager or zone manager so they can keep an eye on me. And that we use that for, hey, I mean, this person's like, he's real scared, just keep an eye on me. He may want to leave. Or the complete opposite too, like, hey, this guy's really rowdy. He's real defensive, because we do have people come through that they try to bug up at you and try to fight you.
People
and
square up against you in the haunted house?
All the time. I mean, we have people that get hit all the time. We train all of our cast members, the zone managers and stage managers, to tell, like, if you jump out at somebody, to tell if it was reactionary or if it was intentional. Because, I mean, there's a huge difference between the two.
Right.
I mean, if you jump out at somebody and like, oh, they jump back and then they accidentally backhand you across the face, I mean, obviously that was an accident. Yeah. And then if they jump back and then they swing, yeah, I mean, that's obviously that they were intending to hit you. And then that's whenever we contact security. And the security team down there is absolutely phenomenal.
So you do have to bounce people out once in a while, or is that a common thing?
Honestly, it's not that common. But I mean, if it gets to it, because I mean, they will be warned depending on the situation. Oh, you jumped out and scared them, and then they like punched the person square in the eye. No, yeah, they're gone immediately, and then the marshal gets involved, because we have marshals on site.
Right. I remember that whenever we walked through. I remember seeing that there were cops around or security of some kind. And the thing I didn't mention was also you have to sign a waiver before you go in the place. And obviously no one reads the waiver. But my guess is because of the foam room, that's the real big part that you have to sign the waiver for, which once again, we'll get to at the end. But I'm sure it's somewhere in there that says don't touch the staff or you can get, bounced. I'm sure they've got that thing tied down legally, but like obviously people just scroll through it. But probably you should read the waiver, just for everyone listening.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, yeah, you probably should read through it.
Yeah, you probably should. You were talking about the communication. I love that. Does that also let you know, like, hey, we've got a group of people here that seem kind of scared. This one specifically, go after them because they're the one that they're protecting. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, us to communicate to the next person, like, hey, I mean, this person's like on the verge of leaving. Like, we don't want them to leave. But I mean, at the same time, it's kind of, I guess you could say it's kind of selfish, because we kind of want them to, because I mean, it means we're doing our job well. It makes us feel even better when we get a scare out. But
right.
At the same time, we don't, because I mean, you paid your money to come out.
Yeah, and I was going to say that I love the fact that you're saying that you're protecting the guests and you're protecting each other too. That's amazing. So it seems like it's a real team effort. The communication, it's not walkie-talkies, but it's actually you're running room to room to tell people. Is that what it is, or do you have walkie-talkies or a way to talk? Yeah,
we have headsets that we're able to communicate.
Oh, cool. Very nice. Well, I wanted to get into that kind of too. It seems like it's a big family. You've been there for 10 years. I was texting you earlier, you have a common friend with a friend of mine, Jake, the rapper, D-Nice, and he's a friend of yours also. But so I was going to say, is it like a big family then?
That's exactly what we are. We're just one big family. Even outside of the haunt. Inside, obviously, I mean, we're all close-knit and we got each other's back, but I mean, that goes to outside as well.
And every year, do you add more people to this family? And is it usually people are brought in by people who are already in, or do, like the younger kids, they come in and they see it and it's just a job for a month? How does that work?
Both. For me, example, like I got brought in from somebody that was already there. I would say a lot of the people that come in already have somebody that's in there, and they're like, oh, they're always talking about it. And they're like, oh yeah, I want to check that out. There's one person there that walked through one year, and then the next year went to the Cutting Edge Haunted House website, and that's how you fill out your application to work there.
Hey everyone, it's just Duck jumping in here real quick to say thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you're enjoying it, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And with that, back to the podcast. And I was going to ask, who is Frances? She was in one of the videos I watched. Is she still there?
Yep, she is still there. She's cast mom. She is what holds the cast together. She is the glue to everybody. Me personally, because I mean, I deal with her all the time. I feel that she is the most important person there. When she's not there, I'm not going to say it all falls apart, but it's different, because she's your best friend. She's also a scolder. If you get in trouble, I mean, she takes care of that. But at the same time, I mean, she's the mother to everybody there. You could be there for one day. I mean, she takes you in under her wing. She'll help you out. She'll help you do whatever you need to do, like give you pointers, and whenever she's not busy, because I mean, she takes care of a lot of stuff up there.
Yeah, I saw that in the video, and the big one was the makeup and stuff like that. I didn't even think about that. I thought maybe y'all did your makeup at home and then went in, but how does that process work? And how long is it?
Just depends on the detail of your makeup, which I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, sometimes it's like 5 minutes. The least amount of time that you'll spend in a makeup chair is roughly about 30 minutes. They do latex, that's the normal paint, do both, they do prosthetics. Obviously, if you have a latex allergy, which I mean, there's quite a few people that come up there at work that do have a latex allergy. So they just get the regular makeup, but it's not like a quick, oh, there you go. These makeup artists put their heart and soul into putting makeup on this person and making it look phenomenal.
And how many makeup artists are there?
On a real busy night, I think we have 9. And then on the slower nights, we still have like 6.
You go all out on taking it. So you're not allergic to latex. You like to go big and heavy on this stuff?
Whenever I don't have my mask, because I have a mask that I do wear. But whenever I don't have a mask, I do the latex. I want to make myself look real good.
Whenever we say this is one of the best haunted houses in the world, period, done. Longest, doesn't matter. It's won multiple awards. It's such a great experience. You guys kill it. I can't even express, like, it's the funnest haunted house I've ever went to. And I love haunted houses. When we went, obviously, you listened to the podcast, we went with our friend who was never going to go. He's a big guy. He's 6'3". He's just a big dude, right? And he was terrified. But it was such a great experience for him because once we got through to the end, he felt like he'd accomplished something. He overcame a fear with his friends. And it was such a great experience. I was going to ask you a little bit more about things like the meat slinger. This is built in a abandoned meat packing plant, but it still works. What is that like to have like the bodies that are strapped up coming through the actual line that the meat would have came through? What is it like to work in that atmosphere? What is that like to see people get hit by that stuff and freak out and stuff like that?
Honestly, it's really great. That is probably one of my top favorite rooms out of the top 3. And you had actually talked about one of them. I think you said it had scared Javier. My top 3 rooms are closet, and then meat slinger, and then we call it the mirror room. And there's a big cutout. We have 2 people that are dressed up the exact same, roughly same height, same makeup, but like mirrorized on it. And so they'll sit there and kind of do their thing. And then one of them jumps through the cutout right at the customers.
Yes.
And
yes.
I remember y'all were saying that scared the shit out of y'all.
That scared me endlessly. All right, I want to say nothing scares Jake. He walked through there like a pro. But me personally, like, I got into the ambiance, and when I got to that room, I was like, and he jumped right in front of me. And I remember thinking, like, that is the most clever way to scare people right there. I had a brief second of like false direction that was just enough to put me off kilter to make me like go like, wow, that was really cool. And it's not something you ever see, in real life. No one's fucking with you like that. Like, it's true though. It's so good. So those are your favorite rooms, but what's your favorite part of the job itself? When you go in every day, first of all, I gotta imagine you get amped up to the day. It must be hard to go to sleep at night, but what is your favorite part of the process?
My favorite part is a cast meeting before we go into set. So we go in there and Todd comes out and he talks to us, and Francis talks to us, and then another gentleman, A-Train, talks to us, just telling us stuff, just helping us get amped up. And then just being in the cast room with all the other people that share my love for haunted houses and my love for scaring people, that's one of the biggest amp ups you'll ever have. But then there's another gentleman in there. His name is Lee. It got to the point now to where we all yell for Lee whenever they're done talking. He'll start screaming out, "Are you ready?" And then he'll say cutting edge on 3, and he'll count 1, 2, 3, and we all just scream cutting edge. And it's a big amp up.
Dude, I'm amped right now. You talking about it. It sounds like summer camp in a way, or like when you're in a stage production and everyone's on the same page.
Yep, that's exactly what it's like.
Dude, I'm not saying I want to work with y'all next year, but let's see what happens. Sounds like so much fun. Is there stuff specifically that you want to talk about?
Well, we were talking about Meat Slinger, and there's one gentleman. Unfortunately, whenever y'all walked through, he wasn't in the state with us. He was out of state. We have a lot of fun with him when he comes in, because whenever he does, he goes into Meat Slinger. When you walk through there was that table right there at the end of the room, right before you went up the stairs, and that's a room that has chainsaws in it. And just a quick side note, running the chainsaw is so much fun. I thoroughly enjoy it because a lot of people are scared of chainsaws. And
Terrified.
I'm sure it's common knowledge, so I'll go ahead and say it. Those chainsaws don't have blades on them.
But in the 1% chance you got a crazy person working there, you never know. And that's the beautiful
Exactly.
point. I don't think you do, but any sensible person, when that comes near them, that's the first thought they're going to think because they know it's safe. But it's the
Right.
mystery and the misdirect, like maybe somebody's crazy who works here. And I guarantee you guys have weeded out the crazies as they came through. But it's always in the back of the head.
But back on the meat slinger part, yeah, he has a prosthetic leg. He actually is an amputee, so he has a prosthetic leg. And every once in a while, he'll come in there and he'll just flop on the table. And when we see that, we know what we're doing now. Next group comes through, he's laying on the table, and then we go to cut his leg off, and he's the only person that's up like scream like ah, because like he's getting his leg cut off, and then we'll take his leg off and then we'll start bringing it over to the customers walking through, and that is an instant fear.
That gets them then. So by the next room, you're like, they might be needing to bail. Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Like, but like he's game for that, right? He's like, listen, we got this.
Yep, I've got it. Let's use it.
That's so cool. Was there anything else?
Well, you'd made a comment about you weren't sure if Buttercup was there. Yeah, Buttercup is still there. I love Buttercup.
Buttercup is an animatronic dragon, just so everyone knows.
Yeah, Buttercup was not always animatronic. At one point, at the very beginning when we first debuted Buttercup, you had to get up underneath inside of her and you moved.
Ooh.
You would move the dragon around. And that was so tiring, but so much fun.
How was that scare with people? How did they react to that?
They would drop because now, Buttercup hangs over the railing, but whenever we were controlling, we could actually push her out a little bit farther.
So what all roles have you had during this? So you did Buttercup, you've done the Bone Collector, I'm not sure what you're calling it, the terrifying, like hitting the stuff with the femur, working in the zombie room, overseeing it, but like, do you have more than one character, or is it always kind of the same character that you're portraying here?
I usually have the same character because I usually stay over the same rooms, and like my character can kind of transpose because sometimes I'll go and take over the last room to kind of help them out, and my costume and my character fits down in there as well. So I usually just have the same character, but sometimes every once in a while I do let my clown side out and I do dress up as a clown.
Nice. And clowns terrify so many people. That's got to be so much fun.
You went through last year, so that's when we first did Bad Acid, which was going near the sub basement, which is the big clown room. That's a lot of fun. I haven't had the pleasure of working in that room yet.
And which room was that again?
Yeah, I will. It's called Bad Acid. It's the big clown room near the end of the hall.
Another thing that I like too, we didn't even mention, there's rooms that give you a break, and I wasn't expecting that, where the bands are playing. The first room is kind of like a drum room, a percussion room, and the second one is, the Hillbilly Band or whatever it would be. They were playing Tool when we went through, and it was a great cover of, I think they played Sober. It was nice. There were little break rooms, and is that what that's for, is to kind of break it up and to kind of break the line down and hold it back a little bit?
Yeah, that is what they're for. And yeah, the first one is always a drum room. And then the second one is always the Hillbilly Band, Chasing Rent. They're always up there.
And they're
the other
killing
one
it.
is down. Oh, yeah. They do a phenomenal job. I love listening to them. I just wish I was working in the upstairs room sometimes so I could kind of poke my head in and just listen.
Yeah, and they're killing it. And they're in full garb also.
But yes, those are all designed to kind of space out the people because, people walk faster than others and some people walk slower than others. So, sometimes you get what we call a train because we try to keep it like 8 to 10 people per group, sometimes less. So, you don't want like a group of like 30 people coming through because, I'll pop out and scare somebody. They'll scream. But now the people at the end of the group know something's coming. And so when I try to jump out to scare them, they're like, oh, yeah, we already knew something was going to happen. So it's not as thrilling for them. We try to make every scare in every room as thrilling as possible for the customers because that's our number one priority as customer. Nothing else matters.
Especially hearing it now, like hearing you begin with saying like, we care, we're looking out for people, we want them to have a good time. And then, to kind of be like, this is how we do this, and it's wonderful to know you're communicating and keeping an eye on us constantly. But at the same time, keeping an eye to say, it's just wonderful to know that you all are about the experience and you take it very seriously. That's so cool.
That is our top priority.
I want to talk to you real quick about the foam room. Have you went through the foam room?
Yes, I have. Every year I walk through.
At one time, or do you do it multiple times? Because that is terrifying.
I do it just once a year because of my position. I feel bad when it's open and I'm not in set helping. I always feel bad. But I always want to walk through once. Because I mean, everybody there that works is always looking for some way to improve. So like when we walk through, one, it's for us, but it's also like, oh, hey, maybe try something different right here. I mean, because we were all open for criticism and we were all open for improvements. We'll walk through, oh, hey, yeah, you probably should try this, or we walk through, hey, that really got me. That was a great job. I loved it. That's our main thing is helping.
And I will say this, I feel like if I worked there, I would do it once a year as a religious experience because I really feel like when I came out on the other side of the phone room, my life was changed. I did want to ask this question. It's very important. Do y'all get your own bathrooms or do you have to use the porta potties outside too? Because I had that experience at the porta potty that was rather exciting, I should say. Go listen to the podcast. Do you have your own bathrooms though, or do you have to use those?
No, we do have our own bathroom. We have there's a couple bathrooms there that we are able to use.
Right on. Thank God, because if not, lock the bathroom door, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have to say. Lock the bathroom door.
When we first got in contact, you had asked me if there were any crazy stories. I mean,
yes.
I could go another hour and a half on crazy stories.
Dude, let's tell a couple then. All right, so we did talk about the crazy story aspect of it. You've got to tell me at least 2 or 3 of like the craziest ones that have happened there. Because I can't even imagine what it's like, the experience of being in there and people being in this awkward situation where they're not used to it, but they came here to be scared. What are the crazy stories? I'm sorry, I'm getting excited. I'm literally like, ooh, tea. All right, what do you got?
Oh, there's a post of it on I can't remember the name of the website. So it's already been published out there, but I was there for it. Like you said, there's a waiver that you sign. We had a lady come through. And as soon as I describe the lady, it's going to give away the entire story, but I'm still going to tell the story.
Go for it. Go for it.
One of the actresses in there, she's phenomenal at her job. And there's a lady walked through and she was 9 months pregnant.
Why? Why would you? Why?
She was walking through, and I believe it was at the end at the haunt, one of the last rooms. One of the actresses, like I said, she's phenomenal at her job. She was on the bed, I believe, down in the very last room. And she just, bam, there you go, got her. She got her real good. She got her so good that she went into labor.
Oh, yes, I knew it was coming. Yes!
She put her straight into labor.
That's insanity. And I'm telling you right now, that should be the headline of like the freaking like cutting edge. It's so good. It'll induce labor. Like that's like water broke right there kind of situation. She had to get out of there. That's insane.
Yep.
I can't even imagine. Y'all, were you in the room when that happened, or you just somebody came to you and like, Nathan, like we gotta this woman's gotta go.
Yeah. I was actually not even in that zone. It spread across the radio like wildfire. Ooh.
I would have lost it laughing at that point. I would have just been in hysterics. Like, I can't even imagine the excitement in the place. But she was okay though, right? She had the baby. Everything was fine.
Oh yeah, everything was perfectly fine. The baby came out perfectly healthy, not a problem.
She didn't have the baby in the haunted house, did she?
No.
Oh,
She made it to the hospital. Because I mean, the nearest hospital I want to say is at the most 2 miles from there.
It wasn't the same hospital you were born at, was it? That'd be great.
No, unfortunately not. The hospital I was born at isn't even around anymore.
All right, I got you. So we got inducing labor. What else you got? What's your number 2 story that's crazy?
We had a guy, we'll say it's like 6 years ago, in a room that was after the downstairs room with like the strobe light and everything. It was at the very end of that. It's called Ruckus Land. And I had one of the other guys that was there. He's a really big guy there. Like everybody knows him. His name is Fireball. And
nice.
The third story will be on how he got that name. I wasn't there for it, unfortunately. This was before my time. And he was out there with the chainsaw because we had chainsaws out in the open. The best way to describe the way that room looked was it was all the unused props that we weren't using just thrown out there, still strategically placed. And so there was like one of the sturdy foam walls that was kind of laying over that had like rock grooves in it so you could kind of climb up it. So he climbed up it and had the chainsaw started. And as the people were coming, he slid down that with the chainsaw raring as loud as it could go. And he slid right in front of somebody. And the dude freaked out. He jumped and kind of kicked. And he kicked so hard that it made him do a complete backflip. Complete full backflip. Yeah. Yeah, and he landed on his feet, and then he jumped forward to try to get away, and he went headfirst into a wall.
That is amazing. I can't even, that's crazy. And you got to see that, or you just heard that secondhand?
No, I was right there when it happened. That is one of the only times I ever broke down and I started laughing in front of customers.
That is amazing.
He hit his head, and then he got up and he was just laughing like he was having a great time.
Dude, that's amazing. That's an experience for the rest of your life. That one you could drink off of that kind of experience. That's pretty cool. All right, I've got to know, how did Fireball get his name? And I already know this shit is epic.
Yeah, it is. And where it happened, it was actually out in Ruckus Land. Just a quick side note, just to give you a kind of heads up on where Ruckus Land was. If you're ever driving down I-30 and you look towards Cutting Edge, you'll see the bus that's kind of like right up there by the highway. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where Ruckus Land was the bus. But out there was like one of those older deep freeze freezers. And it was charred. It was burned.
Mm-hmm.
What had happened was he was using a chainsaw. And chainsaws have like the restrictions on it, like the muffler and everything. Well, to kind of quiet it down, he wanted it to be loud, real loud, from what I was told. And so the muffler had came off. So he was raising it up over his head. Well, little did he know there was gasoline pouring on him from the chainsaw. And then when he started up the chainsaw, it just lit up.
Did it get his head? Like his head was on fire, or it was just like around him, or what?
No, he himself was on fire.
Woo! Who put him out, or did he put himself out?
He put himself out.
But from that moment
after
on,
the customers were gone.
Wait, did he stay on fire just to scare them? Like they thought it was part of the show?
Yeah, from the story that I had heard about it, yeah, he stayed on fire. The customers obviously they saw it and they hightailed it, so they weren't there long.
What? No one helped
He stayed on fire until the customers. He was by himself.
Oh my God. What a wild man. So this guy's just a wild man too, I take it.
Yeah, but he is one of the best actors that have worked there. Anytime anyone's like, hey, you got any pointers for me? Everyone's like, oh yeah, go talk to Fireball.
And they're like, Fireball? Who's that? And then the legend continues. That is so awesome, dude. Other than that though, Nathan, it sounds like it's so much fun to work there. It's an exciting kind of family environment. What would you say to somebody who's interested in doing this kind of work, and how do they get involved with that?
We're always looking to bring on new people. The love of horror and the love of scaring knows no bounds. Check the website, the cuttingedgehauntedhouse.com website. There's an employment tab down there. It has the calendar for showing our open nights. If you're ever interested, just check it out and fill out the application for next year. Around end of July, August is whenever they start looking at the applications and bringing them in and contacting you about coming to work. And yeah, just go from there.
All right, let's do that. I want to say thank you so much for reaching out to me. Thank you for doing this podcast. We will in the future talk to you and some of your friends and tell some crazy stories about the place. I'm so excited about that. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you for being on I Hate Being Sober. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me.
Heck yeah, dude. And also, go get out to Cutting Edge. You're going to have a good time. Sign that waiver. I'm telling you, these guys are going to take care of you. Don't go through the phone room. Fuck that. It's just too much for me. Too scary. But other than that, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
And there it is. Thank you again so much for checking out the podcast today. If you enjoyed it, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love the other podcasts here on the We Are Podcast Network. We are Air, where we talk movies, entertainment, whatever the fuck we want to talk about. That's me, that's Jake, and that's Javi. We're breaking down that pop culture, and we're having so much fun. And don't forget to check out We Are Bagu. That's me and Dr. Ethan Eastwood breaking down all that video game lore and having such a good time. Heroes, Gyros, a Dungeons and Distractions side quest. Me and the boys were playing some D&D. You can start that one from Season 1, Episode 1. It's a blast the whole way through. And finally, our new live video podcast, Camp/Horrorcast, where we're going to have a roundtable discussion about our favorite horror movies. That'll be available on Twitch and YouTube, streaming every Monday at 8 p.m. Check the links in the description to find out what movies we'll be watching. Also, check the links in the description for our social media. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast Network. With that said, thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. We'll see you next time.